Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chunashumme, washmale. Ohai gonzaimas, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wasahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swabi, bhalli kare aaya. Hosh geldin, and ayo sayo, huya mora, chi vato, chi hal yud, kali mera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning on a blessed Friday morning over here in Islamabad. Ladies and gentlemen, I happen to be Shahzad Hasan Khan. Assalamu alaikum. And with me, I'm very lucky to have been joined by my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hira Mustafa. Hello, Hira. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. And what a positive energy it is inside the studios at the moment. I feel very energetic. Whenever Shahzad is alongside me, I feel overwhelmed, right?
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. And it's exactly the same with me as well.
Oh, likewise. Good morning to all the viewers of World this morning. It's a blessed Friday morning, as Shahzad already told you. So we have an amazing segment in today's show. But before that, I want to thank to the government of Pakistan along the PCB who has arranged this amazing PSL 8 edition, which is happening here in Pakistan, which actually highlights that Pakistan is a cricket-loving nation.
Exactly. And you know, because I do know that, Hira, you yourself do a podcast on cricket as well on radio, and it was so interesting for me to kind of talk about cricket, and that too with a wonderful colleague of mine. And, you know, while I was talking about, okay, you know, do you think that Lahore Qalandars picked up the perfect playing 11? And she was on spot with that. But very quickly, I have a simple question for you. I'm very sorry that I'm putting you under the spot. So the simple question I have for you is, how much do you think that the hard ball weighs?
Okay, so I think I know the answer because
what is it?
The credit goes to him.
No, okay, what is it? What is it?
It's 5 ounces.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Wow, yeah, that's super.
Okay, so now I have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
You have to tell me the height of the stumps.
The height of the stumps? But
yeah.
That's not something we decided. That
okay, what was that decided?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
It's 28 inches.
28 inches. Oh my. Well, thank you so much for the great knowledge that I have about the cricket now, because alongside me, Shahzad Khan, who's a cricketing guru, according to me. So, Shahzad, what do we have in the store today?
All right, so first up, ladies and gentlemen, moving on with the top stories. The Federal Cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has approved the Hajj Policy 2023 and National Clean Air Policy. The Prime Minister said the authorities should prepare a comprehensive and effective strategy as soon as possible in cooperation with the officials of Saudi Arabia to provide the best possible travel and lodging facilities to Hajis during the Hajj. He appreciated the Ministry of Environment for formulating the Clean Air Policy. He directed that necessary steps should be taken for the effective implantation or implementation of the Clean Air Policy, and that's certainly something which we do require. Now imagine that, you know, just a few months previous or going back in time, we did realize that how smoggy it was in Lahore, and you know that on the index of clean air we were somewhat around 450, and when we talk about that air which is worth breathing in, ladies and gentlemen, that certainly needs to be below 50 as well.
Right.
So I think that for all of those people who are responsible for that, please make sure, now even that the Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan has instructed you, please make sure that you work effectively and implement this policy and help the government implement this policy so that us and our future generations can breathe in clean air.
Indeed. And indeed, it's a great initiative by the government of Pakistan, as we already know that Pakistan is bearing the brunt of climate change. And with that, we will be moving towards the segment.
Exactly. And Hira, before we move on towards our segment, I have a simple question for you. Now imagine that, you know, when I was in school, you know, I was a very sleepy kid, you know, and it's only because of the fact that my mother used to give me lassi early in the morning.
Okay.
She thought, you know, kids
nice.
having milk and all of that, but lassi, ladies and gentlemen, neend aa jati hai, lassi peen the bacho. But having said so, the only problem is that, you know, when you're not that 100% student, what happens is that you become an introvert. And when you become an introvert, you're not communicating, you're not talking, you're not asking questions, you're not making a lot of friends. And it has to do quite a lot, ladies and gentlemen, with the way you communicate, you know, because when you step into your professional life, what you really need to kind of consider is that the way you talk, you know, the way you speak, and it's not just the words which come out of your mouth. In fact, it's the gestures, the hands, the
It's
eye
the body
movement.
language also.
Yeah, the way you look at the other person. I think it's about everything.
The way you walk,
Yeah,
in fact,
the
you
way
know, that's
walk,
also
obviously.
important.
You know, so if you want to be like a hero, you know, so you walk like that. You know, if you want to limp a little, you're like, okay, you know, the person might be in distress. You know,
And
so
as you're talking about, sorry Shahzad,
Yeah.
I'm barging, and as you're talking about the introvert and extrovert phenomena at the moment, people do have stage fright also.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so that's also what we're going to talk about in today's show. But before moving that, I want you to talk about the thrilling match with Lahore Qalandars clinched from Islamabad United.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a match, ladies and gentlemen, in between the you know, top position holders of the points table. So imagine Lahore Qalandars is already qualified.
They're
for
already in
playoffs.
form, you know.
Exactly, you know.
All ready to defend the title.
Yeah, and Islamabad United has already qualified for the playoffs as well. So it wasn't really a big deal, but the way Lahore Qalandars has taken away yesterday's match from Islamabad United, ladies
I'm
and gentlemen.
heartbroken.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's because of the fact that imagine that for the very first time in the PSL history, one individual score was not being beaten by an entire team.
True.
So what Fakhar Zaman contributed on the scoreboard couldn't really be chased by Islamabad United. Only if we talk about Fakhar Zaman. I'm not talking about Sam Billings. I'm not coming down the order. I'm not talking about any other player. But I think that the credit really needs to be given to Rashid Khan and Shaheen Shah Afridi, the way he is actually captain. Now coming back to the communication aspect of it, because whenever we talk about teamwork, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of communication behind that. You know, we might not even see it on screens while we're watching the match, but they certainly know which position the fielder really needs to be, and it's just the movement of the eye and the team member would understand.
Yeah.
But how important is communication for all of us? How do we really need to kind of get better at it? What benefits can we reap if we are good at communication is something which we will be talking about, and we are very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be the head of Department Media Studies at Iqra University, Islamabad campus. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Hassan Jawad Rana. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Rana Saab. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam, doing absolutely well.
Juma Mubarak, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Rana Saab, just to get started with communication, first of all, I would want you and your words to kind of go out to our viewers in 46 different countries, as in why do you think that these communication skills are important, number one, and number two, do you think that our education sector actually kind of emphasizes on us getting a better communication skill set?
Okay, in a very short time, I'll try to explain this. So there was a study by a Carnegie Institute which said 85% of your financial success is due to negotiation skills, communication skills, and ability to lead.
True.
Only 15% is technical information, knowledge.
Right.
So look at all of your curriculum that you've studied over the past so many years.
True.
We have focused on memorize this, these dates and this, and what about grooming of the students to be able to lead, how to talk, how to present yourself, how to persuade, because we don't improve ourselves or we don't advance in society if we don't persuade the other person of something that we want.
Exactly.
Right.
Simply put.
Exactly. And you know, thank you so much for explaining it to us so wonderfully well and, you know, so precisely, because over here, what I would want to mention is that imagine that, you know, even if we go back and look at Hazur Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life. Now imagine that he's the one who's actually told us that, okay, you know, you walk into a room, you really need to shake hands with everybody, be the first person to say Assalamu Alaikum. When you say Assalamu Alaikum to somebody, stand up, look them into their eyes and make sure that you give them that warm welcome. So it's all about communication, it's all about greeting, and it certainly have a very positive impact. But now when we talk about our education sector, unfortunately when we talk about our schooling, I think that's somewhere where we really need to work hard. Probably because I'm referring to when I was going to school, I went to one of the finest schools over in Islamabad, and they certainly didn't really emphasize quite a lot until the time we were in college. But in universities, we would have presentations regularly, standing in front of a crowd of 200, 300 people,
Right.
you know, some seminars and, you know, some debate competitions and whatnot. It did help. How do you think that schools can really focus on that?
So one thing you understand is presentations by itself. Presentation doesn't mean that something is on the slide and you're reading them out loud.
True.
Right.
Presentation means you're talking to an audience. You have to at least acknowledge the audience. When, for example, when our presentation starts, Assalamu alaikum, and this is our presentation, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're doing, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Assalamu alaikum means you're waiting for a response. You're acknowledging that you are here.
True.
Second thing, I think a lot of times our parents are and our teachers, what they do is they don't allow students to, they tell them that it's bad to not be good, you know?
Right.
Because this is a learning process.
Right.
There's a fight and flight process that happens when you get on stage. It's very
Yeah.
tough. So your heartbeat starts going fast. Why does the heartbeat go fast? Because essentially we're animals. So when an animal faces danger, their heartbeat pumps more blood. More
True.
oxygen is needed, more chemicals are needed, so they can either run away or they can fight.
Right.
Now, you have, as humans, now we can control that response.
True.
We mentally, we can control our, through breathing exercises, through mental calming down, we can control our heartbeat and say, because we also have to believe as Muslim, those who are Muslims, that izzat is with Allah. So when you have
True.
prepared, when you are well prepared, you're confident.
Right.
And that's what sells. It's not the technical thing that sells, it's your confidence that sells. In presentations, in interviews, in sales pitches, everything is about that confidence. In rishtas, in
Of
marriage
course, of
proposals,
course.
it's the confidence of how you present yourself.
Right.
This is why con artists and other people are so are fast. Chalak, they're so tez because they're very good with communication skills.
And that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. So imagine, I'm very thankful to you that you actually mentioned about, rishtas. So for example, I would want to talk about the perception of the people here over here.
Right.
So imagine if somebody went for a rishta and if the lady walks in like this with a trolley
Yes.
full of tea and, sir,
Yes, please.
chai le. That's a very
Yeah.
different perception of people. Imagine that the girl walks in like this. Hi, uncle. How are you doing today? Where's my cup of tea? So the perception is going to be very different. How do you think that people really need to, or do you think even that the people really need to kind of accommodate according to the perception of that particular society they sit in?
Well, first of all, you have to understand those are both two extremes that you showed. This jhukna means physically making yourself smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're
Why to bow
presenting-
down?
And
Yeah.
we are presenting our girls
Right.
as you are going to be submissive. And on the other hand, being like this also means you're getting taller. And we like humility.
True.
So there's a
Yes.
balance between being too humble,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
don't go on my rights, and there's been arrogant. I will not overtake
So
your
somewhere in
rights.
the center. That's
Somewhere in
recommended.
the center. Ji, Assalamu alaikum. There's respect.
Yeah.
Kaise aap, you
And
know,
then you're open about your ideas and you speak whatever you feel like saying, right?
And there's a time and place to say everything too. So it's
Not
not like
everything, though.
just
Right.
because you can say something doesn't mean you should
You
say
should, yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
There's a big, and that's one of the communication skills.
Right.
That-
So you rightly pointed out that our body language and confidence is all what we need when we're walking for an interview or whatsoever it is. But coming back to you again, most of the people have stage fright, and it comes in students also. I remember when I was a student, I used to have a very fast heartbeat, and I used to be like, feeling a little nervous on stage. So for the beginners, what do you have to tell them, like how they can improve their communication skills, and also what role parents can play in, having a confidence on their children? Because I believe there's a lot of communication gap these days.
Let's take it because as a writer, we write movies. So as a
Right.
movie, the presentation is the climax of the movie. That means the climax of the movie is only like 5-10 minutes. All that movie, all the conflict is like 1 hour long. So that means the preparation, the putting together the right thoughts, that you're not just putting down words, you believe what you're saying. Right now it's all about copy pasting, so you don't believe in what's written. When you believe what you're saying, when you're prepared, when you've practiced, when all the things are done, then even then the heartbeat goes fast. But then you should believe that I'm prepared. My roots, like a tree.
Right.
Imagine a tree. A tree is only as strong as its roots.
Yeah.
The roots are its preparation.
Right.
And it only bears fruit if you're well into the ground.
True.
So the fruit is the actual outcome. And that's the difference, I think, from your first topic, is the difference between communication and effective communication.
Exactly. Which is why now what I would want to kind of ask you is that, when we actually jump onto this bandwagon of effective communication, that means that the message really needs to go across. So let's talk about those quick tips which you might want to give to or share with our viewers, with which they can improve their communication ability and the skill set. And hence we have already kind of figured it out that communication is not just verbal, it's physical, it's the eye contact, it's everything. So please go ahead and let us know what are the quick fixes.
Tip number one, I think, is it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. For
Yeah.
example, if I say, I didn't say he stole my money.
Yeah.
If I say, I didn't say he stole my money, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I didn't say it, somebody else did.
True.
Right.
I didn't say he stole my money. That means somebody else stole it.
True.
I didn't say stole my money. That means he didn't steal it. He maybe borrowed it and didn't return it.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't say he stole my money means, So it's the same five, six
implying, yeah.
words,
Yes.
and it all has different meanings.
Exactly. And, you know, just in connection with this, you know, over here, because, you know, just the other day I was in such a similar situation. So imagine, because we had a lot of guests over our
Right.
place, and then I was not able to find my charger. So see, we have a WhatsApp group, and, you know, so everybody's on it. So I was like,
Right.
okay, you know, if I'm going to write that, okay, you know, somebody took away my charger, you know, somebody might even feel offended.
Yes.
So what I chose to write was that I think that by mistake somebody has taken my charger with them. If they figure it out that it's mine, please let me know. You
This
know,
is
I
what
think
we're
that's
talking
the
about,
most-
yes.
And,
Yes,
you know,
and
there was
that's
this
actually-
prompt response.
Right.
That, hey, you know what, I thought that it's my son's, but I'm going to get it back.
You didn't hurt
Right.
anybody's feelings, but you got what you wanted.
True.
True.
Okay. So second tip is that, you know, this is something that obviously, because something that belongs to me should be in my control. For example, my hand should be in my control. If it's out of my control, it's useless. So mind, meri akal, my mind, my thoughts, I should be able to control them. Unfortunately, that's very difficult to do. But the body doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Right.
The body will say something. So you have to, second tip is be in tune with your body. That means understand, and it's okay, understand your body's thing. And then the thing is, you can't trick your mind, but you can trick your body.
True.
Right.
So if I want to feel confident, I'll sit up straight.
Yeah.
True.
With the back straight and good
Shoulders.
posture, you'll automatically start feeling confident.
Confident, yes.
Second tip is smile. When you smile, certain chemicals are released because we are biological as well as spiritual creatures.
Yeah.
So when you're tricking your body into feeling confident, that tricks your mind into feeling confident.
True.
And for extreme cases, if you're feeling over nervous, then you just go and wash away with cold water.
Right.
Because the body is designed when it's in cold water to automatically lower your heart rate. Because it's like a deep dive mechanism. So these are different tips that you can Google them.
And you know what, in addition to that, I would want to kind of share over here, because I was recently reading this book by Jordan B. Peterson, and the title of the book is 12 Rules for Life.
Right.
And the number one rule for life, you know, he writes in his book is, you know, that you should always have your back straight and your shoulders right in the position of where they should be. And I've actually experienced it myself, that when you start to do it intentionally, all of a sudden you start to feel well as well. You start to feel confident. And you're out there.
You
And
start believing in yourself. I must
exactly.
say.
And in connection to that, you know, what I'm going to do here over here is that, you know, just because you mentioned that, you know, it's the parents' responsibility to kind of educate children. So imagine that, you know, my daughter, who's in 4th grade, you know, there was this international debate contest which was going on, and, you know, so we made sure that she's going to go and participate. She participated in the first round, and the first round didn't go really well.
Right.
And then they said that, okay, now the lollipop versus lollipop will take place, because obviously they certainly didn't want it to say it to the children. And then, you know, so I sat right in front of her, and I was like, Putra, you know, you really need to make sure that your hands are open like this, you know, think first, then speak about it. And imagine, guess what? So she won 2 gold medals and 3 silver
Wonderful.
medals just yesterday. And we're going to share this picture as well. So it's parents' responsibility, because the kids look up to the parents. And that's when they actually start to live and believe in your words, when you actually make sure that you're going to spend that time with them and give them that legacy, which you have probably learned from your grandfather or your father or from any other buzurg as well. So that the picture will be on your television screen. It's here. You know, I'm Shabana, I'm super proud of you. Just yesterday, 2 gold medals, 3 silver in a debate
Wonderful.
contest. Shukr, alhamdulillah.
A round of applause
I'm
for
a
a
proud
young
father.
lady.
She's qualified to go to Qatar, Doha now,
Mashallah.
inshallah,
Wonderful.
in April. And that's it, you know, so that's the magic of communication. Anything further you would want to add over here?
Yes, 2 things. One is that it's in the genes.
Okay.
Right.
So that's something that she can control. So good communication is also in the blood. So
Inheritance also matters.
Parents have to understand that some things are by body and some things are by, because we try to force somebody who's creative into engineering. It
Right.
won't work. Or we force somebody who's mentally like an engineer,
Yeah.
or we force them into like on stage.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Yes.
At around the age of 7 or 8 years old, when the child is 7 or 8, this is when their potential is at full bloom. You can see where they're going.
Yeah.
So if you assess their personality at that age, you'll know that Allah Ta'ala, how Allah Ta'ala made that person, where will their future be. Good communication is like an art.
Right.
It follows all the rules as a designer does.
True.
Artist and designer follow the same rules.
True.
But some have it innate and some have to learn it. That doesn't mean that you don't work on them.
Hard work beats
Right.
talent.
Huh?
Hard work beats talent.
Also,
work
we
always
have to
beats
make
talent.
right choices when it comes to the students, as you already mentioned, that engineer cannot be an anchor and a painter cannot be a singer, right? So it goes sideways. But I have read a lot of your interviews, Mr. Jawad Rana, in which you have underscored and highlighted that reading expands the mind. So I would like you to highlight that also.
So when in Pakistan especially, people don't have good reading habits.
Right.
Living abroad, I remember on the subway, people had books.
Yeah.
Everywhere they're reading. Now people think, and I tell my students, please, even if you have to read a dirty novel, read it, because reading is words, and words have certain mind-changing abilities.
True.
So when you read in a different language, or you read in something, if you want to learn English, for example, don't learn grammar, adjectives. If you know what sounds right and sounds wrong, you're on a faster track.
True.
Right.
So reading, the habit of reading has to be underscored. And secondly, because reading also changes your culture. It broadens you. For example, when you start reading about different things, your library increases in your mind.
True.
So you have more reference points. Even if it's a fictional character, it's like Tom Sawyer or even like Harry Potter.
Right.
So when you have a fictional character, a reference point, you'll know how you want to word those certain conversations. So please, I cannot underscore that reading does help, not only because it expands your vocabulary and mindset, it also changes your mindset into become a bigger, broader, and more tolerant person.
Right.
And in addition to that, what I have felt, once you start to read, Hira, and that is that, that it broadens your perspective as well,
Right.
to understand better. Now, imagine that, there might be situations in life which we cannot explain in a very best jargon, probably.
Right, yeah.
The way it's written in the book, and, all of a sudden you're there,
You
oh
can
my
relate,
God,
yes.
man, that's what I was thinking about. So very quickly towards the end, there's one last question. And it's from, both the perspectives, okay? So once I'll say the question, I'm going to say it in Urdu for everybody who's out there, because I think that it will actually make sense in Urdu as well. So imagine us, for us men or women, obviously we are an inclusive country, ladies and gentlemen, that's how we would want to think about it. So as men, we would know किसी गाड़ी का एक्सीडेंट हुआ है, वहाँ से चलती भी आ रही है कि 2 पीस टच हैं, हम मोटर बाइक पे जा रहे हैं, हमें पता है इसमें पेट्रोल ख़त्म है, तो हम हिला के देख लेंगे कि इसमें नहीं है. फिर हमें कुछ रियल एस्टेट का आइडिया होगा, हम कहेंगे यार इन प्रोजेक्ट्स में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए. हम किसी से फ़ोन पे बात कर रहे होंगे तो हमें पता होगा कि यार ये फ्रॉड तो नहीं करेगा. किसी को पैसे उधार चाहिए तो हमें पहले पता होता है कि ये वापस करेगा, ये नहीं करेगा. So men, और likewise for women, उनको पता है सेल कहाँ पे अच्छी लगेगी, कपड़ा कहाँ से अच्छा मिलेगा, या
I
कौन
can
सा
answer that
इंसान कौन
better.
सी बात कर सकता है, कौन सी नंद कौन सी बात कर सकती है, things like that, meager issues, but that's how it is. But why is it that that particular man
Right.
and the lady are unable to understand each other? I think that's the only question.
There's a very good reason, and I'm going to share it in a comic
Sure.
way. It's not going to be scientific.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
you know,
Right.
Like the men, we like to have things organized in boxes in our brain.
Yeah.
Do you see that video?
Yeah.
There's a box for like the car, the box for the house, the box
Kids.
and
That's
you don't-
very
and you-
interesting.
You make sure that those boxes don't touch.
True.
Like
Right.
when I'm watching TV, I just want to watch TV. Please
Yeah.
don't bother me with anything else.
True, true, true.
If I'm doing this, I only want to do this. Take it. So and then those boxes don't touch. We make sure that the box is done.
उसी को
dusted,
खोला, उसी को बंद किया और बस that's it.
and even we have a box for nothing. We just don't want to do anything. This is why men spend so much time in the bathroom.
Right.
Take it? Because
Yeah.
we're there, we don't want to do anything.
Blank.
But the women's brains are wired differently because they run on emotions.
Yeah.
Right.
So because everything is connected by emotion, one emotion touches another emotion, everything is connected. जो आपने बात की, none
Right.
connected with the child's homework and वो सारी बातें.
All threads are
All
interlinked.
things are interlinked.
Yes.
And there's a beauty in that too, because we are different. We are made differently.
True.
So when you try to impose that emotion on the man,
Yeah.
it won't work. And when that man starts to imposes that organization,
That
it
won't
won't work.
Exactly.
You have to give each other the leeway and understand.
Yeah.
And second thing on this, because you mentioned the gender thing,
Right.
when you have boxes, you want to make sure that, this when you come in one room and you go to another room and you say, I forgot something.
Yeah.
Because your brain is wired like that.
Right.
You have to understand that in our culture, in a room, which is more important, a door or a window?
Door?
A door.
Door.
Yeah.
Because you can have a room without a window, but you cannot have that. So this is why the window is muannas and the door is muzakkar.
All
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Kursi is a
दरवाजा
she.
और खिड़की.
Kursi is a she. Maze, the dominant one, is a male.
Sofa.
So in our in our culture, in our language, we have a very distinction. In the English, it doesn't. It's an it.
Yes.
Exactly.
So our cultures, our language is what defines how we think. This is why reading is, again, very important.
Exactly.
Because it changes the way you think. Yes, there are differences, but we accept those differences.
Right.
And you know,
Okay.
thank you very much for saying that, because I believe that, you know, coming to the communication aspect of it, that the culture literally plays a very pivotal role in the way you communicate as well. But thank you very much, Rana Saab. It was a wonderful conversation early in the morning, that too on a Friday blessed morning. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading out towards a short break. But once you guys are going to come back, you know, people who are not really good at communication or communicating with other family members, with peers and with colleagues at work, ladies and gentlemen, they can create a lot of problems for themselves. And once these problems are being created, there's a lot of tolerance and patience required for other people to understand that, hey, you know what, that he or she really never meant this, while they were actually offending you as well. So I think for that, we really need to do another segment, that how do you think that, for God forbid, if somebody has said something to me which I don't feel nice about, do you think it's always important to kind of go back and lash out on them, or rather be quiet? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning. Jummah Mubarak.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into World this morning, and in our first segment, we have a really great conversation about how you can improve your communication skills and whatnot. And we have a really interesting conversation according to the guest, that we need to be very vocal, we need to be confident, and parents need to give trust to their children. And in the second segment, we're going to talk about tolerance, which we actually lack these days, Shahzad. We are not that tolerant, we're not that kind and humble towards our fellow beings. How do you agree with that?
I mean, it obviously varies from individual to individual. I mean,
Or maybe circumstances to circumstances,
yeah,
situations
there will be a
also
lot
depend.
of people, Hira, there will be a lot of people who might be very patient, who might be very tolerant as well. And you know, to kind of speak about it, ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky that we've actually been joined by one of our most amazing guests. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most regular guests as well, because every time he's on the show, he always makes sure that he's going to make sense, and you know, sanity should prevail. I think that's what his motto is. Very lucky that we've been joined by the Public Information Officer, United Nations. He is Mr. Mohammed Abdul Wahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam, Shahzad. I'm feeling great and hope you are feeling great as well.
Thank you so much, sir. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the show.
And you reciprocated in the same manner the way Shahzad did.
Yes, I like his energy every morning. You know, if you need to get a boost, you see, you need to watch him and you will pass the whole day with the same energy and vigor.
Indeed, I agree. I agree.
Inshallah. And sir, in addition to that, obviously, you know, so in the previous segment, we were talking about communication and how important it is.
Yeah.
You know, there's a dilemma in our society, and I think that it really needs to be changed now. For example, I'm going to share this very term with you, and you would be very well aware of this term. So imagine, मैं तो जो बात होती है जी मुंह पे कह देता हूँ. You know, so whatever there is, you know, I say it on the face of the people. Do you think it's the rightful thing to do when we are talking about tolerance and patience, even if we know that this thing will actually hurt the other's emotion or things like that?
Shahzad, well, I mean, you have chosen an excellent topic. At the same time, what you have hinted about, I mean, it's again very important. Basically, when we talk about tolerance, tolerance is a sort of, I mean, you can say it's a passion, it's a characteristic, it's a habit, which takes nations to the height. You see, at the same time, when, I mean, nations lose tolerance, then again they see depths. The same happens with individuals as well. You see, individuals who are highly tolerant and they can really, I mean, understand, they have the knack how to show their anger, how to display what they don't like. I mean, that really characterizes them and that sets their repute as well.
True.
Shahzad, coming back to your question, you know, I mean, saying something bluntly on the face of a person depends. You know, there are types of people around us. There are people who are, again, comparatively more tolerant. You see, if you do not like something in that person, you have a good relationship. At the same time, you know that the person will not be offended.
Right.
You can be blunt. You can right away express your dislike or anger on the face of that person. At the same time, you're meeting a new person, though he has or she has irritated you a lot during that 1 hour conversation or
Right.
meeting,
That happens often.
and you might have been feeling like that 1 hour was like hell for you.
Right.
Even then, not knowing that person exactly, more prudent approach will be to keep quiet and to find a better opportunity or better ways to express what you did not like or what could have been perhaps problematic in future for that person.
Right.
Again, it's a sort of our moral duty to pinpoint and to indicate to people around us who carry with certain behaviors or temperaments which might put or might create difficulties for them.
Exactly.
Right.
And sir, in addition to that, there's one more thing. So imagine, I believe that our reactions are totally based on the way we judge people. So imagine, and it's not always correct that, that we're going to judge them 100% correctly. At times we can be right, at times we can be wrong. So imagine those reactions which are actually taken out of the way you've judged a person. Do you think that that's a rightful thing to do, or do you think that you should still give them the benefit of doubt?
Shazad, well, I mean, your question is really, tricky. What I can suggest from my experience, you see, again, as I said, it depends on the person. And I mean, what you have pointed out, can you please just
Sure,
repeat
sure.
a bit?
It depends either on the reaction of a person
Yes.
that we
Yeah.
judge people according to
So
our
now I know,
beliefs.
there
Yeah.
were a few students who were bullies in school,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I would always have that perception of theirs,
Yeah.
and every time they're going to come across me, I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
I know how to handle them. But they might have changed over the period of time,
Exactly. I mean, basically, I mean, there are certain standard behaviors to be displayed in public.
Okay,
You see,
Right.
I mean, I'm just trying to answer your first question.
sure.
And everybody knows what are those norms, what are our cultural values, which things offend a certain culture, which things can offend, I mean, a certain
True.
set of people
True.
with various backgrounds. So we should be mindful of those cultural taboos.
Right.
For example, you will be very surprised. For example, in any cosmopolitan city of Pakistan, you can ask about the person's health. How are you? How's your family?
Right.
You cannot go beyond that. In certain, cultures in Pakistan, you cannot ask, how's your family?
Right.
You can't ask
True.
because there are borderlines,
Certain barriers.
Yeah, you see, it is taken as interference into personal life.
True.
So I mean, people, once you are meeting the people who you know, that already predetermines your questions
Okay.
or predetermine your behavior. If you are, for example, in the company of a foreigner, a friend, you know that he is not going to mind anything at all, whatever you ask,
Right.
because they have been trained culturally.
True.
Yes.
Because I mean, for example, sometimes their liberties are beyond certain
Acceptance,
permissible
yeah.
extents even. That is the reason, whatever you ask, they will never be offended.
True.
But in, societies like Pakistan, you have to take into account ethnicity, you have to take into account sectarian background,
Right.
you have to take into account tribal background.
True.
True.
You see, at the same time, you have to take into account what our culture permits
Or
and
what caste they belong from or come from.
Exactly. And again, I mean, when you are meeting women, never ask their age.
Yeah.
You see, in South Asians
Right.
culture,
Yes.
in foreign culture, you can ask.
हमारी तो
that-
फौरन पूछ लेते हैं लड़के की उम्र क्या है और करता क्या है।
करता क्या है?
मुझे ये नहीं
And
समझ में आती भाई
there-
हमारी क्यों
there-
पूछ रहे हो भाई?
there are certain people in their first meeting, they ask, how much salary do you draw?
हाँ बिल्कुल।
Yes.
I mean, this is something.
True.
ऐसा
some
नहीं है कि
peop-
मैं आपकी सैलरी में से कुछ लेना चाहता हूँ, लेकिन वैसे फिर भी आपकी तनख्वाह कितनी है?
Yeah.
True.
And I mean, people really get offended.
Yes, we do.
In the beginning, I was thinking that there is no harm in telling anybody's salary.
Right.
But basically, what happens in our
Nazar lag
culture,
jati,
if
sir.
you really tell your actual
Just start
salary,
judging you.
what happens? No, what happens
Right.
after that? Maybe during next 1 year, there might be a list of demands. Oh, this person is drawing handsome salary or he has handsome income. So he can easily help me with
Right.
100,000 rupees.
Yes.
Or say, I mean, for example, 10,000 rupees are just like peanuts for him.
Right.
You see, why this happens? Because you have told your salary.
Indeed, indeed.
That is the reason people, even men, they hide their age these days.
Yes,
It
they
used
do.
to happen with women only. You know, people do not tell their salaries. For example, I mean, you will be surprised. My younger brother asked my youngest brother asked my younger brother about his salary,
Right.
and he didn't answer first. You know, and he was just trying to move him right or left.
हाँ जी गुजारा हो जाता है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह.
The
Thanks-
reason
thanks to
was
Allah Almighty.
he was expecting that the youngest brother, he would say, "Bhai, you are earning so much. Why don't you give me, say, 5,000 rupees every month?"
Right. Indeed.
You see?
That's true. I
Sir.
think same goes for a married couple as well, where the wife
Exactly.
keeps on asking, okay, how much money do you make? Yeah, tumhe kya hai? You know, whatever you want, I'll get it for you. I think that's how it is.
Exactly.
But having said, I think that what I had the finest solution to this. So imagine every time, because most of the time, this question is not, you will never ask me this question, I will never ask you this question, Hira will never ask me this question. It will be only the khalas and the aunties of your
Indeed,
khandan
yes, very
or your family
unfortunately.
will only be asking you about,
Yes.
हाँ पुत्र तेरी तनख्वाह कितनी है खाला जी तुसी की करना है you know whatever the case may probably be. So the best solution to it is that I would always multiply my salary by 3 and then tell it to people and then
Lower
watch
side,
their reaction.
on lower side.
Yeah, no, on the higher side and watch their reaction. So I'm like, okay, this much. And they were like, okay, you know, we never knew that he's making this much money. But ladies and gentlemen, obviously make sure that you're true to use yourself as well in the first place and be more tolerant, be more patient. But thank you very much, Wahab Saab. It was lovely to be in conversation with you. We're just a little short on time today. Because we have to do another transmission, inshallah, on PTV Sports. So for everybody who's tuned into PTV
Of course,
World,
the cricketing guru
please
is sitting right
please
next
make
to
sure
me.
to tune into PTV
How
Sports.
can
I
you
thought
not
she
tune in?
she was about to ask me a question.
Yes, sir. I was having a question, but Shahzad, you know,
That's effective
we are
communication.
little, yeah. Okay, so coming back to you quickly, you can let me know
I
about.
thought you were my team member.
No, she's not.
I'm
She's my
keeping
team
a
member.
balance between both of you. So, sir, like quickly, I can ask you, like, I wanted to ask you, like, we are being very intolerant these days when it comes to political disagreements. You know, we end our friendships on that heated debates and all that. So, how can we be more tolerant towards that?
I appreciate this question. You know why? Because this is too pertinent to modern day atmosphere.
I'm a victim
particularly
of it.
Pakistan, you know. Well, let me tell you basically what is happening.
Right.
We have to really define lines, right? When we talk about political differences is that category of sort of social ideas, social affiliations, which, I mean, we should be very tolerant. I mean, whichever party you belong to, whichever party I belong to, whichever party he belongs to,
Right.
we need to respect. You see,
Yes.
well,
House
the
party,
thing is,
sir. House
sorry.
party.
The thing is, you know, again, but we have to follow standard behavior.
Indeed.
What goes against human rights, what goes against women rights, whatever goes against cultural norms, whoever violates them should be criticized equally.
Indeed.
We shouldn't judge people according to our desires.
Right.
For example, if you belong to a party, I mean, whatever crimes or violations are committed, we do not condemn them.
Right.
At the same time, we condemn for hardly 10% of the violations or crimes which are
Right.
committed by another party or workers.
By
You
keeping
see?
ourselves safe.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we need to be extremely tolerant towards all cultures,
Right.
towards all languages, towards all tribes, towards whatever it is.
Exactly.
Towards humanity, we need to be tolerant.
Yeah, thank you so
Exactly.
much. Not just towards humanity. I think all the creations of Allah Almighty, we really need to be tolerant and more patient about it. When there's this, you know, wonderful judgment which came out, you know, a few years ago, and you know, there was this interview of this amazing honorable judge, and he said that, you know, that there were a few people in a wedding ceremony, and then they had people who were dancing, and the particular area's SHO actually took 20 to 30 policemen with him and arrested everybody else. And so he
Right.
said that, you know, God forbid if somebody sins, that's something which you should always be answerable to Allah Almighty. You know, it's not an offense or it's not a crime. So I think for people out there, please make sure that you do not start to punish people for a sin they have committed. because they're not answerable to you. They're answerable to Allah Almighty. But God forbid, if that sin will have a direct impact on you, you should certainly talk about it and figure out a way, and that too peacefully. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Juma Mubarak. Have a great day.